Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to the nitty gritty. Man, you guys have been awesome. It has been wonderful engaging with y'all and just seeing the feedback and watching the numbers grow. Man, I am so grateful for you guys. I mean, and just sharing this place where parents, guardians, just people can really just be understood, okay? Because I don't know how it happens, but in some way, shape, form, or fashion, we've all like lived lives that, we had our variations, but it was almost like side by side. It's like you can be across the world and you had the same childhood experience as somebody. It's like how is that possible? But it's so real. And y'all, I was just sitting here thinking as I was, scrolling on my phone, preparing for the live. And, I watched certain videos and I'm like, why are these kids talking to their parents any old kind of way? Or why are the parents allowing the kids to talk to them any old kind of way? I mean, obviously, things change generation to generation. We learn certain things shouldn't be included in raising a child, or certain things are a must, when it comes to raising a child. And of course, there are opinions from here to Timbuktu, but yet and still, there are just some common things that say, well, hold on now, wait a second now. Are you my child or are you my friend? And by friend, I mean like adult wise. I mean, we're having a whole different level of conversation. Like we joke in a whole different manner. And I'm like, no, 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 no. We need to understand that at a certain point, regardless of this is my relationship with my kid and I'm going to have it however I want. Yeah, hey, go for it, but there is a certain social structure aspect that I feel it gets blurred because they get out there and they're not understanding. Why is my boss not speaking to me in the same way these other adults do? Why is my CEO not being flexible like how these other adults are? It when you're trying to teach a child that level of respect or that kind of respect when they've become an adult, it's kind of too late. They're kind of already set in their ways. They're like, hey, whatever I feel, I should be able to say it right then and there. I don't have to wait. They have no, like, what do you call that? And when you tell someone to read the room, they like that awareness, that dynamic is not the same. And so they grow up with a form of respect, like how some people have a form of godliness, but it's a form of, okay, well, this is a free country, so I can say whatever I want to say when I want to say it, and you're just going to let me because that's just how this is. And it's like, well, no, no, no. Now we're going against the grain here and for the wrong reasons. It's not that I don't want you to be able to express yourself. It's not that you're not safe, to express yourself, but we have to understand that us as parents, like we're setting the guidelines, we're setting the boundaries, we're setting the structure so that when they go off, they have their own relationships, they have their own businesses, they have their own companies, they, whatever whatever the aspect is, we're setting the stage for them to either thrive in it or dive head first down into just turmoil, because we are already acknowledging and accepting that there really isn't a standard, that there really isn't this parent child relationship. It's more so, well, okay, you're going to be an adult one day, so we might as well start now. It's like, hold on, that they're only 5, okay? They're just taking everything in, and I get the little videos. Some of them are, funny at first or a little adorable. Where it's like, the kids rolling their eyes out, but you can't tell that child to unlearn all of those behaviors and all of those patterns when you realize they've attached disrespect to it. They've attached raising their voice and being disobedient and no, you don't want them to feel like they're a slave, but you want them to understand that it's not no ba da ba ba ba, you get it your way kind of thing. That's not what will have them, in a well-rounded, healthy adulthood, you know. And so I just I use caution, with that kind of thing. Like, yeah, we play, but where's the line at? Because we can't just be out here making our kids our friends and then they're not understanding why other adults aren't about to kid around with them too, it's like they get a culture shock. They get out there in the world and it's like, oh, you don't, this ain't that kind of relationship. So now they think people are being cold towards them. They think people are rude, or oh, she's stuck up, or he's so full of himself, he don't want to talk. But maybe it's not that. Maybe the structure of a teacher, student, parent, child, instructor, you know, relationship has been misconstrued because I know for me, when I first started, raising anybody, I was like, well, I remember when so and so talked to me like that, so I'm going to make sure that that's not what I do. Or I remember being told this, and so I'm going to make sure. But I thought I was helping, you know, protect them from the feelings or emotions that I might have had growing up, but it really didn't. It, it, I mean, it really wasn't helping. And I almost didn't see it until it was too late. I was just kind of like, well, where do you get off, talking like that? Or who, what, what, huh? What is going on? And so as it began, like with my older daughter, like I keep it real on here, y'all. I was just going about my day, just kind of laughing, just kind of relaxing and we're just joking around. And then she said something where I was like, "No, no, hold on now. What a dial that back. I know you call yourself playing, but you're borderline being disrespectful, and that's not gonna be tolerated." And she was like, "Oh, well, I just thought, because this is what we were saying." And I realized that I opened the door for her to be older than what she is. Like, I set the stage for that so-called maturity table, and she wasn't ready to eat from there. So she was just gonna adapt. Kids, I don't know where this comes from, or I don't know how this happens, but they just have a want to be older, to be more mature. Maybe it comes with, we feel like the more access we have, the better we'll feel. But when I became an adult and I had access to taxes and bills and responsibility, uh I didn't want that access. And a lot of us, we sometimes we just get thrown out there. We don't even want that. Like, we're not trying to rush to it, but sometimes we end up in that category very early. So we just adapt. And so with this conversation of me talking with her, I realized like, oh, you misunderstood our relationship. Like you misunderstood the dynamic of our relationship, not because you initiated something. It was because I didn't set the guidelines. I got a little laxy daisy. I actually really like that word. But I got a little laxy daisy with my parenting, and I was caught off guard because she actually like took me up on that. you know, she was actually acting in the way that we had just been joking about. But I didn't see it that way. It was something that just clicked, and I was like, "Oh no, what is going on?" I uh I need to draw that back in, and I need to figure out, okay, when did this become very um unguided? Like I was like, we're not having the no strings attached. No, there's plenty strings. Okay, these strings help us stay within the margins of safety. They help you stay ungrounded, and it helps me stay unupset. Okay, I don't even know if that's a correct phrase, but unupset is the phrase for tonight. And so, as I was talking with her and explaining to her, like, okay, this is the kind of humor that I was using in this one scenario. I had no idea that she even thought like more on that one thing. I just thought like, oh, haha, that was funny. That was, an adult funny moment. Nothing inappropriate or anything like that. But that's just as far as I thought into it. I just like, oh, and and she was just like, oh, haha, so we just kind of moved on. I didn't think anything else of it. And see, and that's why we have to be so careful with what we expose our kids to, especially when it comes to things that we find funny. Because I don't know, it wasn't until I started to be more conscious of what I'm showing them that I even cared about what I found funny. Because, life can be so serious, and oh my gosh, it just goes on and on and on, and you're like, I just want to check out for a second. I want my mind to check out. I just want to chill, watch some when I was younger, we watched America's Most Funniest Videos. I don't know if that makes me sound real old, but I used to find those videos really, really funny. So now that we're in the tech age, everything is swiping or I don't even know all the terms. I'm not even gonna sit here and pretend with y'all. But I just kind of want to laugh a little bit. It helps me unwind, blase blase. And so that's what I was doing. And so when she saw that I found it funny, then in her mind, okay, that must be the green light. Like that, whatever I was laughing at, whether it was light humor, mid kind of cringy humor, was it dark humor, whatever it was. Excuse me, y'all, that was so, y'all. Anyway, I'll tell you about that. I'll tell you about that a little later. But anyhow, y'all, and she just saw it as a green light. Okay, so that must be something that's socially accepted. Like that kind of whatever activity, that's what adults do, they find stuff like that funny, you know. And I was like, no, no. And she was like, well, but you laughed. I'm like, well, dang, I did. But how do I explain to you? It's like, I don't, I'm, I don't have the kind of know how to explain this to you. Now, initially, when she first said that, and I got ready to explain like why I even laughed, the the generation before me started to come out because I almost responded, "Girl, I do not got to explain anything to you." I simply said that's not okay and that's it. But would that really be helping anything? No. Would that really be setting her up to take something away from the situation besides hurt feelings or an attitude? No. So I sat there for a moment and I just explained to her, like, I didn't even think about it. It reminded me of something else that happened. That's why I laughed, that kind of thing. And she felt better with me explaining that to her versus me just blowing her off when she really didn't know. And she really wanted to know because our our kids care about how we feel, you know? And that's why it's so shocking to me to hear so many young people say, "Well, I don't care. Well, they can say what they want to say. Or they can," but that I you don't care like a little bit. But then I learned, hey, a lot of their aggression don't really be aggression. It's usually insecurity or it's sadness or something like that. It's just masked as aggression. And that's a podcast for another day. But it just had me one, it had me realize I needed to be more mindful of myself. Like I needed to govern myself. Like, hey, well, if this wasn't, cool for her to do or for anybody else to do, why are you entertaining it for real? That I can see if it was just like, some just regular old something funny happened, but if you weren't, you know, comfortable with her acting like this very same person that you just found funny, then is it really funny? Like, oh, so it's funny if someone else is in the situation, but it's not funny if your kids do it. Okay, that sounds like a hypocrite. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to be teaching my kids to be hypocrites. It's enough going on in this world that we might find ourselves conflicted with, and I don't want that for them. And so I was like, okay, we're gonna adjust. And then now that I'm on my phone, after that conversation, I really started to see videos differently. Now I'd be like, why is that? Why are we doing this? It's like we want to be friends with our kids. And I didn't understand it at first until I was, deep in thought and meditation. I was like, wow, well, it's because a lot of us, however, things happened or however things went with us growing up, we didn't want to talk to our parents. Like our feelings were that strong at some points, whether it was just a misunderstanding or, just whatever the reasons were. We are like, yeah, I can't wait till I get out of this. Oh, I can't wait. Now, some situations are very reasonable. Of course, I want you to get out of the situation. I don't even know and I didn't even know you back then. Some people give their testimonies and I'm like, oh man, if I had the ability to save you from that, I would have, because it really be that rough and it really be that daunting. But oftentimes I think we look back on that and we say, well, I don't want my kid to, cut me off when they get older, or I want to have, the best relationship with my child. I don't want them to feel like I'm their parent. I want them to feel like I'm their friend too. And I think that part got a little tweaked because yes, we want that openness, with our parents, we tend to be like, if I say certain things or if I'm feeling some kind of way and I say it, like they're gonna be like, they're gonna jump on my case. But when I'm with my friends, I feel more free. I feel like I can talk like this. I feel like I can do that, you know. And a disclaimer, Real friends will get on your case too. Okay, real friends will be like, nah, we ain't doing that. Nah, I'm not into that. No, you ain't finna do that. Like, that's not even who you are. Real friends will check you in a loving way. They will. But anyway, and so I think that we adopted that kind of uh, fear from us growing up. So then it turned into protection. Like, oh, I'm protecting my kid from feeling how I felt. I'm protecting my brother, my sister, or my foster cousin, whatever the scenario is. I'm protecting them from feeling how I felt by parenting or raising them this way. And then they get older and it becomes more obvious that, hold on, you need to be a little closer because you getting wild, or this world is getting wild. Like, we need to have you closer. But they're so used to one pushing you away, whenever they felt like it. But they got comfortable in that distance. And so it's hard to bring someone in when they've already created their own little bubble, their own circle. Like, yes, we know they're going to have their own personalities. They're going to have their own likes and dislikes and things like that. Like, it doesn't always have to mirror what we like and what we don't like. But sometimes we quote unquote protect them through our fears so much that it actually disconnects us instead of bringing us closer. Because I'll be real, some family dynamics, because you are family, like because you consider yourselves family, or you're biologically family, or your adoptive family, whatever, some aspects of that, like if some scenarios happened and they were pretty rough, like pretty bad, it tends to be more likely that things will get resolved if it's family. Not simply just because, like, oh well, we were raised together, but there's a certain string that really holds on to that. Because, yeah, of course, you know, we bicker, we argue, we disagree, but it's something that just keeps you in. It keeps you in. And with friendships, it it only can endure so much. The word friendship, the word friend, that's my friend. That word gets thrown around so much. I mean, it just it's not even a word of value anymore. And so if they think of you as a friend and then you're correcting them, or you're saying, hey, we're not doing that, or ooh, that was not okay, or no, you can't go, no, nah, she can't come over. No, we take that as, man, and all those big emotions that they have been able to display unchecked, uncoached, I was finna say therapized. I know that's not a word, but I mean, there has been no guidance in that area because friends don't really be doing that. Not the ones that want you to be cool with them. Friends that want you to constantly agree with them or be with them, they can be some of the most volatile people. Okay, and because they'll give in to everything. And so if we have that system in place for raising our kids, or raising whoever we're responsible for, when they get upset, they're just gonna feel like that's an attack on y'all's friendship, not your motherly relationship. with him or her. Not your fatherly, not your, no, that's just an attack on our friendship. And we ain't got to be friends. Friends come a dime a dozen. That's the saying. A lot of people say a dime a dozen. And then, it often leaves people hurt because they be like, but I'm your mama, I'm your daddy, and it's like, but I don't see you like that. And they're not understanding that it started way back when. It started way back when. And so that's why I really, really advise us to pump the brakes a little bit to see what is it that we're actually doing, and that brings about that reflection period of like, hey, is it too late? And I'll tell you what, I've seen both sides. I've seen people stop, trying to, I want to say people please, but it's just your kid or that young person. But it could be, more than one person. I digress though. And and you're like, you know what? I gotta nip this in the bud. You know, I gotta deal with this early. And so I've seen that and I've seen the turnaround and it was great, years passed, so respectful, and just so good. And then I've seen people, they try to do the exact same thing, the exact same way, and it's just not received, and we can't be mad at that because that's just how, they're processing things at that moment. But we just have to understand that we can be friendly. We can be friendly, y'all. Friendly. But we don't have to be their friend. And I know it's hard when your kid doesn't want to talk to you. They don't want nothing to do with you at that moment because those emotions are just so big. That's okay, And I know it stings. The first time I heard our oldest kid say she didn't want to have a conversation right now. It it hurt my feelings because I was like, hold on, we always talk, no matter the situation, no matter like we always talk. But she didn't, she didn't want to talk at that time. And so there's that moment of, do I revert back to the older generation of how I was taught to deal with this situation? Or do I try another approach? And so what I did was I said, well, okay, you want to talk? I understand. And this was back when I was like trying to figure out what is the best method for us, and she ended up, talking to someone else, another adult, about how she felt and things like that. And again, I felt some type I was like, what is this? Like, I am your mama. Like, you is supposed to come and talk to me about everything from here to there. I don't understand what and then that's when it dawned on me. I'm like, man, you would do that in a friendship. You'd be like, I really want to talk to you. Oh, here's somebody that didn't upset me. I'm gonna go talk. But it's because I didn't open the right doors for her to feel like she can come talk to me no matter how she feels. Even when she don't want to talk to me, she can talk to me, you know. And of course she physically knows that. Like, there's nothing stopping her. Nobody's holding her down and keeping her from talking to me. But there's that emotional or mental part, that's like a gate for them, keeping them from coming over and talking about how they feel or talking about what they're thinking, you know. And so in those times we have to adjust, and if they're older, I've seen that too. I've seen very, very, very grown adults battling with their grown child about respect and understanding and things like that, and being considerate and all these things. And it was just kind of like, well, where do you think they got that from? Okay. Like, I'm not saying it's too late once they become. I just think that it'll be a whole lot harder. And so if we instill those values and those core memories of like, oh, this is when I was taught this is when I was taught that. Like, if we are intentional with our time, with our kids while they're young, there is less of a battle between us and them when they get older, prayerfully, and between them and their employer, them and their boss, them and their employees. You know, it goes much further than just like, oh, well, I want to make sure my kid has the finer things. I mean, I understand. I understand. But that doesn't mean that grants them full access to being however they want to be, saying whatever they want to say, going wherever they want to go. No, because y'all don't see the world, the way we do. And I would not like for our kids to get older and then bam, the world is like, oh, you thought this was play. Oh, no, no, no. Let me show you how serious this is. And so we just have to start somewhere. But the fake little sass and all this stuff, like, we don't know. We don't know if you're truly, 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 just playing around or anything like that. Like, you might actually be taking this to heart and you may like this display of character. You may like how exemplifying this type of trait, makes you feel. You feel more powerful. You feel more in control, or you know, there are things that come with all of that. And so I was just like, man, we gotta stop doing that. We gotta stop being our kids' friend and be a friendly parent. Okay? And I mean, seriously, there just there are just an overwhelming amount of people that are going through the works right now because they said I'm protecting my kid by doing all the things that I didn't do, things I didn't say, places I didn't go. Like, wow. Wow, wow, wow. This we got this, y'all. Like, we really do. But these kids, they don't know the difference. That's just like when you speak negatively to yourself. Your subconscious don't know the difference. Shoot. They think, well, you know, you might be actually what you said you are if you're just like, man, I'm so stupid. Well, well, maybe we are. Maybe I need to start changing some stuff up here, upstairs, in my brain. And that's why what we speak to them, it matters too, because whether or not they acknowledge however it felt, it still sticks with them. Our words are so powerful. And that also would allow them, us choosing our words to set those boundaries and to set that understanding, that would allow them to do the same thing because it's so much harder to do something that you've never seen before. Obviously, if you're an inventor and all that other stuff. But I mean, like, to just go out there and tell your kid, okay, I need you to balance this checkbook and then send it over to such and such corporation. They're gonna be looking at you like, you want me to what? I don't know. What is that? What are you talking about? And so it's the same thing when we are parenting. It's like, do you really want them to get out there and be shell shocked because they're not understanding that adults or people in charge or people in those positions to make decisions are actually making them, and they can't do what they want to do all the time. They can't say what they want to say. Sometimes when your CEO, your boss, your XO, whatever, tells you to do something, you got to do it. But see, people that are used to the ones in authority, the ones making, the rules or setting the rules are, just their friends. Like, it's not that serious. You can let me slide. But if that person doesn't let them slide and they get fired, now they're in this whirlwind of a loss of identity because we didn't teach them that that is normal. It is normal to get critiques. It is normal for someone who is in another position who is trying to, teach you things. It's normal for them to be like, hey, that's not the way to do that. Or, hey, this is the way that we can do this. How about you do this instead? See, they would take that as, oh, you trying to tell me what to do? You trying? Okay, but if we had been practicing that since they were younger, that would probably not be their take on it. Yes, there are outside influences, your friends or their friends, that I'm my own boss and all da 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 da. Yeah, that's okay. Just one thing at a time. But the one thing we gotta do is be like, you are a child. Like they used to tell me, so you are a child. You will stay in a child's place. We are adults, and you will get out of our face. I mean, and what I tell you, like that whole nosy thing, like I honestly think it was that's just curiosity of like, I don't know, different things. But we just gotta understand that if we're gonna be around here acting like they are our friend, as crazy as this world is, then the consequences once they become an adult and they can't take criticism, they can't take being coached, that's not gonna fall, on the whole world. That's only gonna fall on them. So let's give our kids a second chance, because sitting there asking that child, like most of us have gotten, are you a child or are you my friend? And they, 9 times out of 10, they say, oh, I'm your child. Okay, well, act like it. Like, it's like, oh, dang, hold on. Wait a minute. I don't even know what that means. I don't, you want me to go play or something? Like, what do you mean? And so we just have to do that for them. We have to give them a second chance, because just us by ourselves and trying to be all extra friendly, 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 it's not going to work. But if you're constantly there and you're constantly showing, the next generation, especially if you're solely responsible for raising them, if you're showing them like, hey, we don't got to do things this way. No, I'm not just jumping down your throat, but there are some rules, there are, some guidelines, and it's explained, like it's approachable. It's not you abusing. Hello. It's not you abusing your position over them. It's not you saying, well, I'm the boss or I'm this, so you got to do what I say. It's not that. Because we already learned that don't work. That just makes angry little kids that turn into angry teenagers, and now they're bitter adults that don't want anybody to tell them what to do. It's just, that cycle is just there's no reason for us to continue that cycle. Okay, I understand habits are hard to break, but we don't gotta keep doing that. We can seriously be like, you know what? I'm doing things differently. And y'all, that's really all it takes, for real, for real. It just takes a moment for us to just pause and be like, what is going to be the impact of this? And that's why I really be asking, like, is that your friend or is that your child? Well, I think your child needs to know that they are your child and not your friend. And I keep circling back to that because it is so important. Having an understanding of respect and why the respect is so important and how far respect will carry them. It's just, there's, there's no like just quick way to explain it. Like they're gonna have to live that. I don't know. We just think, oh, well, not we, because I don't think that. In fact, I told my kids, no, you're not moving out at 18. You can't move out until you're married. Our kids were like, what? And it's like, but it really shifts their entire mindset once they understand, one, this is a safe relationship. So now they can begin to learn what is safe leadership, because not all people who lead people should be leading people. Okay, some people need to go have one of those seats in the audience and get led to, because they're out here being abusive and manipulative and controlling, and the list goes on, because we all live on earth, so we've seen it, you know. But we're showing them what actual healthy leadership is by being that first example. And oftentimes we may be thinking that they're not paying attention, our little cousins aren't paying attention, or our friends' kids aren't paying attention, but they are. They're absorbing that stuff. Even as a teenager, they're watching. Okay, they may not say anything at that particular time, but they may be going out repeating that same sentence that you said. They may be exempling. That's crazy. They may be exemplifying them same traits. They, we never know. And so we can just take a second to be mindful of that. We can take a second to be like, you know what? I'm not going to set you up for failure. I'm actually going to care about what I'm talking to you about. I'm actually going to care about what I'm showing you. I'm actually going to care about where you go, or where I allow you to go, or what you do and what you wear. I'm actually going to care about that. And I'm going to make it obvious that I care about it, but not in a I'm so afraid if something happened to you, so I'm going to keep you under a rock kind of way. But living and showing them a different way to live, a different way to think, you know, a different way to be, a different way to select friends, you know, and not be one of those like crowd pleasers. Because if they know, which they do, kids are kids, teenagers, young adults, whatever you want to call them, youth, are they're very smart. When they start to see that, oh, my parent or my guardian, they'll pretty much do anything because they don't want me to be upset at them. They'll give in because they don't want me to pitch a fit. You know, they'll give in because they really want to see me happy. There's the list goes on. And so that creates a young person that will bend the truth easily. They'll easily be like, well, do you really want to do that? Because you know how I'm going to feel, or I don't really want you to. But not everybody out there is going to cater to their feelings. Okay. People out there are not going to be all wrapped up in them. They're simply going to be like, okay, well, that's just too bad. You're upset? Okay, well, that's nice to know, but that I'm still going to do what I want to do. And now they feel like the whole world is against them. Their identity is being conflicted because their reality isn't real. It's not real. And so, yeah, we gotta protect them. We gotta help them. We gotta be like, hey, I know I was allowing some stuff to slide before. I know I wasn't really present. I know I was, but that's not what this is. We're going to build on this. We're going to, like the words say, iron sharpens iron. Okay, we are going to revamp this whole thing. Let's see where we can start at. Let's chip away at some things and let's work on it. When we finish that thing, let's chip away some more stuff. Let's work on it. Because just as much as we have our own opinions, we have our own thoughts, so do they. So when somebody walks in and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, drop that, don't do this, don't touch that, don't touch that. This is how you do that. This is how you're going to. It's so jarring. It will make them reject everything that you're saying, you know, and everything that you're doing. And so we have to just adjust and be like, you know what? It's not too late. It's okay. We are going to walk this thing through and it's going to be fine. But it starts with us, It really does. It starts with us. And with all this stuff going on in the world, we gotta prepare them. We gotta prepare them. Some people just out here living, and I know, like especially like if it's you're just like my hands are tied. There's nothing I can do. This person is just a lost cause. No, they're not. They're not. We just need a different approach. Sometimes they need more time. I'm really an avid believer in sometimes you gotta love folks from a distance. You gotta help them from a distance. And, I know we like to, check in and be like, did you do this? Did you do that? Sometimes that's all you gonna get is you gonna get some simple answers until it gets built on. Because friendships are easily tarnished. They're easily, broken down. But having a true relationship, not just a friendship, friendship is in relationship. All of those things are in relationship. Having that true healthy relationship will help with all of that. And so that's why it's like, well, okay, well, just give them a chance, man. Some people have literally like they saying no to them is so taboo to where they will pitch a fit and destroy everything in sight because somebody told them no. And we as adults we look at it like, oh, you just spoiled, but where did it start? You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we gotta ask ourselves and hopefully ask them to ask themselves, like, why where did this start? How are you were your parents were people pleasers? Oh, they always wanted to see you happy, so they were just giving, 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 giving without restraint. You didn't have the guidelines and the caution tape. No, it was just a free. Oh, okay. Now this is starting to make a little more sense as to why you're responding this way. And that's not to say that person is a bad person, but we do get to a certain point where we say, but how long are you going to use that excuse to be that way? How long are you going to use that reason to be that way? Because not everything is an excuse. I used to recoil when people say, "Oh, that's just an excuse. That's an excuse." No, no, no. The way that excuse was explained to me was like, "That's just you just came up with something, and it just fit." But I was like, "No, this is a real reason. This is valid. This is true." So okay. But how long are you going to use that reason to continue to act like that? How long are you going to continue to use this past situation to respond that way? At a certain point, we gotta say, okay, self, it's okay if we let that go. It's okay if we don't lean so hard on that. It's okay if we get healed. It's okay. It's okay. And not everyone knows that. They think because something happened, that it has to stick. It has to. Like, yes, I know we learned a lesson in it, and we may have learned a very harsh lesson about people and their things, but that doesn't mean that we have to continue that way, y'all. That doesn't mean they have to continue that way. Maybe some of them they just need somebody to talk to. They just need somebody to really break it down to them. Hey, yo, whoever raised you might have been your friend. They might have been giving you everything because, friends like to see friends happy, but I want to see you more than happy. I want to see you healthy. I want to see you alive. Okay? And without structure, without understanding the common sense boundaries, there's a time and a place for everything. Without understanding that, you can put yourself in some dangerous situations. And y'all, we can't have them out there like that. We can't do that because there are people that will take advantage of that. They will use that to they will hurt our babies, y'all. We can't just have them out there like that. They will do that. And it's really up to us. It's up to us to pull them in. We don't want you. I used to think like, dang, these parents are pretty harsh. They asking this, like, but then when I see people, cutting their eyes or, cutting, that's how you know. I'm talking about rolling your eyes, cutting your eyes, rolling your eyes, side eye, all of those eyes. When I see people do that and like the grandmothers or the grandfathers be like, who you cutting your eyes at? And they'd be like, ooh, you know, but in today's world, people like, I'm cutting my eyes at you. I'm rolling my eyes at you. Like, oh, hold on now. Hold on now. Now, who did she just say? Did he just say? Because that's the kind of background, that I came from. And so seeing a whole different culture, seeing a whole different aspect of lives lived that did not have that, and it's like, whoa, that's that's spicy. Like, I don't know how that works, but y'all, we gotta reel them in. We gotta reel them in, or these streets gonna gobble them up. Okay, they gonna spit them out like like garbage. We can't do that. We can't do that. We can have fun with them. We can talk with them. We can joke with them, all this stuff. But there has to be structure. It has to be, because if if they think even their relationship with us is temporary, or it's bendable, or it's expendable, it's just they're not gonna have anything to stand on. They're gonna be standing for this moral one day and then standing for that. It's like, but what are they gonna believe in? Who are they gonna believe in? Who is gonna guide them to believe in anything if the relationship with us isn't even the right relationship? So y'all, we gotta just adjust a little bit, y'all. We can do it. You know what I'm saying? We gonna rock and roll it. We gonna keep them laughing. We gonna cry together. We gonna hold them. You know, we have to allow that space. But to even do that, y'all, we gotta get healed ourselves. You know it. We can't we can't be trying to pull them into a place that we got barricaded up 5, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, before they even, came into our awareness, before they were even born, or before they were adopted, or before, they leaned on you. So we got to deal with ourselves. We got to deal with the stuff in our mind and our memories and our hearts and all of that. We got to understand that it starts with us. We can't be mad at them for doing certain things that we caused out of fear or out of, spite for whatever we remembered from back then. We can't do that. We got to give them a second chance. And y'all, I am ready to do that. And you know what? You got to give yourself a second chance too. Can y'all give yourself a second chance? You deserve a second chance. You got a second chance, you know? And I believe that. I have the faith for that. That it just takes us just one step at a time. And the rest is history. So y'all, I am so glad that y'all joined me on today's podcast of Are They My Friend or My Child? Because seriously, look at the dynamic. Look at what's going on. Am I raising you like my little friend? Like some people say my little broke bestie? Or is that your child? Is that your baby? When they grow up and they're grown, they think that is that your baby? Are you raising them to protect them in the way that they need it, or are you protecting yourself? Are you casting your hurt on them? Because that's not going to that's not going to end well. It's going to have its moments, and that's not for every situation. Now, some people, that is their go-to motto. It has worked beautifully. They have never fallen out with their children. Have you know they have an immaculate bond because they did the complete opposite of what their parents did. And I'm not saying do what other people did to raise you. I am not saying that at all because no. All I'm saying is we gotta we gotta do better, so that they can do better. It's contingent on us being better and doing better. So y'all, I love y'all. Thank y'all so much. This has been a wonderful, wonderful podcast. Can't wait to see what all of you have to say or things. I hope this was powerful to you. I hope it was life changing. Can't wait to see all the remarks and comments on Facebook and Twitch and Instagram and all of those great platforms. Y'all be sure to y'all check out the rest of the videos in the podcast. It's available on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on um oh, there's so many platforms. I'm gonna bring that list with me tomorrow on tomorrow's podcast. So I'll let you guys all know um where the podcast gets sent out to every time